Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Howard. I'm a watch enthusiast in the Boston area. Today, let's take a look at two new dial colors of the Rolex 2025 new release. This is the 41mm Oyster Perpetual, one of my favorite models. In fact, I own a 36 OP as my daily wear, and these are some of the newer colors in 2025. On the left, it's the Pistachio, like a light green, and on the right is the beige. You know, ever since Rolex introduced a bunch of different colors, more colorful colors for the OP, and they just, I would say a few years ago, you know, one of the trend has been kind of doing a little bit different colors, you know, every other year or every year. I mean, honestly, it's very difficult to completely change a model, right? The model year length is very long. So they do small improvements or updates, you know, every year, every other year. And this year, for the 41 and the 36 OPs, Oyster Perpetual, they've introduced some different colors. I will also have a separate video on a 36 on more of the like a light purple color. So the other trend is, you know, in the last few years, a lot of these dial colors have been, I would say, more sun ray, you know, shiny type of dial color. And this year, you know, these so-called, you know, pastel or a little bit more muted, you know, lacquered color seems to be the focus, and I like it. You know, I think the sun rays are great. But one of my favorite watches I had, you know, the overseas VC overseas. Earlier year, the overseas blue is actually a lacquer. Then they changed it to more of a sun ray in the later years. So the first reaction, I mean, obviously, Oyster Perpetual, everyone knows, very simple. You know, it's one of my favorite because it doesn't have a date. You know, for most times, if you just want a three-hand, this is it. The newer models like these, you know, next to the index have a little dot. It's more of a little bit harder to see, but it's actually more of a 3D-ish dot. It's not a flat painted. And older models sort of have the number 5, 10, 15, very small number next to the indexes, and the overall design hasn't really changed too much at all. Let's take a look at the size. So this is a 41mm case, but as I said in my other videos, OP or DJ, I can't really get the 41 when I measure it. So when I measure from 4 o'clock to 10, the case size is around 40. Sometimes it's even less than 40. But the watch is 11.7 millimeters thick. So it's reasonable. It's not very thick at all. Generally, Rolex watches are not very thick, and that's one of their really big strengths. And the lug width is 20, and it tapers down to 16 at the clasp area. This watch weighs, this is a full linked watch. It weighs 138 grams or around 4.85 ounces. I think that's a good weight. For me personally, I have a smaller wrist. I'll demonstrate. I kind of prefer watches in the 120 to 130 grams. When the watch hits, you know, 150, 160, 170, it gets a little bit too heavy for me for daily wear. So 138, I think it's a reasonable weight for stainless steel 41mm. I mean, overall, again, the polish, it's pretty standard. It's got the polished bezel, but the rest of the watch, especially the direct look, the shoulder of the lug, and also the bracelet, they're all non-polished, basically, you know, a nickel finish. You know, I like that a lot. I mean, I know a lot of the DJs and day dates, you know, all have a polished center links. I like, you know, I like this non-polished center links, kind of like some of the Submariner models. It just keeps a little bit more, you know, less attention grabbing, and also a little bit less easier prone to scratch. The side is polished, so it's very easy. If you're not careful, it's very easy to get scratch on the side. So the model number is 134300. I think it replaces the older 124300. It's caliber 3230. Obviously, there's no exhibition case. It's pretty standard, just a, simple case back. I believe the power reserve is pretty standard at 70 hours. Let's see. Yeah, the water resistance is pretty standard, 100 meter and 330 feet. Again, the full watch is stainless steel. Simple design. That's why I like it. Rolex, the Oyster Perpetual, superlative chronometer, and officially certified at the bottom, Swiss made with little Rolex logo. Simple and straightforward. White gold, I believe, indexy surrounds. Obviously, the corner light, the lume for nighttime vision for the hour marks, as well as the indexes and the hands. You have the Rolex crown with a line underneath the crown. That's basically means it's a twin lock, screw down, 100 meters, 330 feet, water resistance. It just looks very clean. Like I said earlier, the lacquered or the matte finish was sort of, back in the days, maybe a little bit more available, but a lot of the watch styles have become, sunray in the last few years, and it's good to see different varieties. Obviously, Rolex still has a lot of sunray dials to choose from OP or DJ, but I think just a couple of extra colors. And this pastel color, I think the other key thing is it's more of a unisex. Guys can wear it, women can wear it, no problem at all. If the wrist size is it's a good fit for you. That's why I think for the 41, the colors are still a little bit more neutral, but I think for the smaller one, 36 and 34, there are a little bit more options in terms of, slightly towards, feminine type of color. But overall, I think these colors are unisex, probably more appeals to a broader audience. All right, the 2025 Rolex OP new model color, a beige on my wrist. My wrist is 6.5 inches, 16.5 centimeters. So I would consider it's kind of lower end of medium to small. While I'll personally prefer 36 just because, my wrist, the profile is a little bit flatter. 36 will look better. This watch, I think I failed to mention, Lug-to-lug is 46.4. I think it's slightly shorter than the older model, which I believe is around 47.4. So it's maybe 1 millimeter shorter lug-to-lug. So again, remember when you look at video, the watch will always appear to be a little bit bigger on the wrist compared to a actual look. But right now, I have about 6 to 7 millimeter space here. Down here, maybe 2 or 3. So definitely it's not overhanging my wrist. If I make it a little bit tighter, it's definitely doable. Like I said, 41, it's not huge. Again, like I said, the key is lug-to-lug. 46.4, if it's the correct lug, it's reasonable. And also, it says it's 41 millimeter, but on my measurement is only 40. So it's not quite 41. The side profile, look down through this angle, it's definitely doable. The edge is almost, because of the slightly downwards lug, it's almost at the, directly at the edge of my skin. The other side as well. Very nice light color, like I said. It's just not too obvious. If you're from distance, this light beige may even almost look like a like a dark, silver or something like that. I think the actual color compared to the video is just tiny bit of a more beige. Like when I'm looking at this through the video screen, it looks slightly lighter. Okay, here's the Pistachio on my 16.5 centimeter wrist. Same size, obviously. I think the Pistachio colors, obviously, compared to the beige, is a little bit more eye-catching. I mean, it's a beautiful color. Again, on the video, it looks slightly lighter than the reality. If we tighten up. I love the satin non-polished links. It just looks so nice. Okay, let's take a final look and also pricing. So the retail price on the 41mm OP is $6,650 US dollars as of October of 2025. Obviously, because these are new, it's very difficult to get it from the AD unless you have a great relationship. I mean, that's the case for every new Rolex watches, basically. Other colors, are much easier to get, but these, I'm sure it's the long waiting time, if there's ever a waiting time. On the secondary market in the US, again, the price is different compared to different regions in the world, Europe, Asia. In the US, what I will say is the demand is always very high, even though the economy is not very great right now. But when I talk to dealers, secondary market dealers, the demand is still very high. That's why the secondary price on these new models are just high. The beige one is a little bit more affordable. I think a brand new one on the secondary market is about maybe around 15,000. Obviously, that's their posted price. The actual sale price might be a little bit lower. And the Pistachio one on the left, it's a little bit higher because I think this color is a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more desirable, a little bit more cool. The price is 16,000, maybe around 16,000 to 16,400. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's double the price compared to retail. Is it worth it? I'm not sure. It's even some of the older OP and Datejust, for some of the popular colors, the mint green or the lacquered green, I think the price is still very high, even though the regular color one, some of the white one, the silver one, black one, the price have come down dramatically, and it's also much easier to get from the AD. But I think for these new models, if you're interested, unless you have a great relationship with AD, I'll just recommend go secondary market. And the one last thing, I don't sell watches. A lot of the fans ask me, "Oh, these are yours?" No, of course not. I've done 100+ videos, and I borrow these watches from dealers and friends generally. And but yeah, if you're interested, I have a couple of places I recommend, very reputable places. All right, this is the Oyster Perpetual 2025 new release, model number 134300, the Pistachio and the beige color. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.